So inside processing, we can use variables to help us work a lot more smarter and efficiently. And inside processing, we have to declare the specific data type of the variable that we want to make. And so as an example, if we wanted to make a whole number, we declare int for integer, and then the variable name, and then we say it's equal to something. And in this case, because it's an integer, I'm going to say 5. If I put something like 5.5 here, I'm going to get an error because this says float does not match with integer. A float is any number with a decimal place. So float, variable name, 5.5, that is a number that has a decimal and is a float. What's kind of interesting is if I got rid of this, even a number without a decimal place is still a float. Come back here, 5.5. We can also use strings, which is any variable that has, or any data type that has text. And this is always surrounded by quotes around the outside. So Ultimo Coffee is the place near my house, and I think they've got great coffee. So best coffee is my variable equals Ultimo. Booleans are statements that evaluate to true or false, or variables that evaluate to true or false. And so in this case, I'm making it equal to true or false. And notice that it's lowercase here. And then finally, we can choose colors. So I could say color, coffee color equals coffee, and this is equal to a brown color. And this was found inside here. So inside tools, color selector, and you can go here and find your correct color. So looking at this, if I went down here and I just said fill 255, I'm just going to draw this rectangle at 100, 100. And notice it's drawing from this point here. I'm going to switch this to be rect mode, center. So it draws from the center. And now it's going to draw around this point. Now, say I wanted to do something ridiculous like a smiley face, or just a face in general. What I would do is I would then set up some variables for myself. So since this is an X position and this is a Y position, I'm going to use variables for rect, X, and Y. And then above this, because I need to declare my variable names beforehand, I'm going to say float X equals width divided by 2. And that's going to put this directly in the center of my screen. And float Y equals height divided by 2. And now when I run this, X and Y are going to be equal to 300. I know this because width divided by 2 is 300. We could also do something here like debugging, where I could say print the value of X. And we will see down here that it's 300 with a decimal place, 0.0. Print X comma Y. And if we run this again, 300, 300. So this is helpful sometimes to be able to see exactly what we're doing. And then what I might say is, okay, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So let's make this like 500, 500. All right, now we've got it's too big. 400, 400. And say I want to do like some eyes right here. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, I want an eye at like 200 and let's see, I could do, we'll say 250, 200, or 200, 250. So I would go here and I could do like ellipse, 200, 250, and then make this 30, 30. All right, that got me one eye there. But what I could also do instead of doing this is look at this and say, actually, X minus 100. And if I did 300 minus 50, or sorry, Y minus 50, notice it's in the exact same spot. So I'm going to come back here Command C, paste it down here. And instead, then I could do plus and plus. And now, whoop, this one went down a little bit because I said plus 100. So I have to look at this for a second. I wanted to go up in terms of direction here. So I actually want to keep my y value the same because I want these to be on the same line, but I want the x value to increase. So I'm going to go minus 50 back here. And now I've got those along the same line. So what's nice is, say I make this a little bit smaller, 300, 300. All right. Now, if I change my original x and y values, everything will move with it. And I could go down here and say, these are my eyes. I'm leaving a comment to myself. This is my head shape. And so if I change this, let's do width and height just as an example. I mean, it's gone off the screen, but you can see everything moved with it. So you've got a little bit more control over how you're working. Let's put in a mouth just as one more example. So I'd come down here and say mouth, so leaving a comment. And then let's look back here. Maybe I want it to go just a little bit farther down. So I'll do, let's see, it's still going to be at the regular X position. So it's still going to be at 300. And then I want it to go out to like here. We'll make it a big old, like we're doing like a robot head or something. So maybe I'll make it 150 pixels wide. So let's do rect. And we've already got rect mode center turned on. Rect X and then Y plus, let's do 30 because we want it to go down in space a little bit. So we have to add to it. And then 150 and so this is the width and then the height, we'll do 30. All right, cool. We're getting somewhere. I might lower it a little bit so I can always come back and say 50. All right, and then you can go in and start to do coloring. And in this, like, I think it should be rounded on the edges. So rectangle can actually take 5 values, and this will be the amount of rounding on the pixels of the corners. So now we'll have it a little bit more rounded and actually a little bit more. 20. Cool. All right, and then you can go in and give it some color. So fill, let's do some color selector. I can go in and give it a, let's see, some blue eyes, copy, paste this in. And notice this is going to be applied to down here. So then I'm going to come here and do fill, tools, color selector. I'm just going to do a different sort of blue, copy. And I don't want a stroke on this entire shape. So I'm just going to do no stroke. And then this background head needs a shape to it. And I'm actually going to give it way rounded. And instead of white, let's give it another blue. And I'm going to make this one even lighter. So we'll just go up here. So we're going to have a monochromatic one. Ooh, those eyes need to be a little bit darker, I think. But you're starting to get the idea. Let's go darker on the eyes. And this is kind of one of those processes where you just really play around in terms of how you want things to look. It's a lot of back and forth. Cool, that's getting somewhere. And to hide the guidelines, come back down here and I can just do 2 backslashes or command or control and backslash, and we'll hide those guidelines. So we're starting to get that to come together. So even if I did move this over a tiny bit, we'll still get it to move because it's all based around this original X and Y position. So if I just even moved it up a tiny bit, so instead of it starting at width divided by 2, I did 200, the whole thing will move over to the left because it's on the X position. And so that's the basics of using some variables when drawing your collected shapes.